There's a field in Saskatchewan where yellow canola and blue flax bloom perfectly next to each other, making it look like someone planted the Ukrainian flag into the earth. There is a park in Quebec with misty forested valleys so dense that geologists compare it directly to the Carpathian Mountains. Today, we are covering 6 places in Canada that look like they belong somewhere in Ukraine. Most people drive through Manitoba without stopping. That is a mistake. Riding Mountain sits on the edge of a dramatic escarpment that rises 450 meters above the surrounding prairie. It is an isolated plateau of boreal forest, meadows, and lakes that feels completely separate from the flatlands below. The landscape that most closely mirrors it in Ukraine is the Polisia, the vast forested wetland zone in northern Ukraine, where dense mixed forests give way to open meadows and quiet lakes. The light in both places behaves the same way, filtered through tall trees, landing on still water, with no city anywhere near the horizon. What makes Riding Mountain unusual is the combination. You are standing on a forested highland in the middle of the prairies. Almost no Canadian travel content covers it. The park is located in western Manitoba, roughly a 3-hour drive northwest of Winnipeg on Highway 10. It receives a fraction of the visitors that Banff does, despite being one of Canada's oldest national parks. From the flat prairie above you, would have no idea it was there. Then the ground simply drops away. You are looking down into a wide green river valley carved into the plains, with lakes strung along the valley floor, wooded slopes on both sides, and complete silence. The Qu'Appelle Valley is what geologists call a meltwater channel, carved by glacial runoff at the end of the last ice age. The result is a valley that has no business existing in the middle of the Saskatchewan prairie, yet it runs for over 400 kilometers from east to west. The visual comparison is the Dnieper Valley in central Ukraine, a broad, fertile river corridor cutting through flat agricultural land with the same unexpected sense of depth and greenery appearing out of nowhere. Ukrainian settlers recognized this immediately. They arrived here in large numbers in the late 1800s, and their descendants still farm these slopes today. The valley is accessible from Regina in under an hour, and almost no one outside Saskatchewan has ever heard of it. Number 4, Gatineau Park, Quebec. Drive 20 minutes north of Ottawa, and the city disappears completely. Gatineau Park covers 361 square kilometers of rolling forested hills, deep river valleys, and quiet lakes sitting directly on the Canadian Shield. In autumn, the hardwood forest turns in waves of red, orange, and gold across the hills. In summer, mist collects in the valleys at dawn, and the ridgelines appear in layers above it. This is the landscape of the Ukrainian Carpathians, not the high alpine drama of the Rockies, but something quieter and older. Rounded hills covered entirely in dense forest, with valleys that hold the fog and slopes that rise and fall in every direction without a single dramatic peak. The Carpathians top out just over 2,000 meters. Gatineau does not pretend to be a mountain range, but the visual character, forested, misty, layered, is closer to western Ukraine than anything else in eastern Canada. Over 11 million visits are recorded at Gatineau each year, yet almost none of that attention reaches international audiences. For most of the world, it does not exist. It is a park most Canadians outside Ottawa and Gatineau have never thought about. Number 3. Sandbanks Provincial Park, Ontario. The sand here is white. Not beige, not tan. White, fine-grained, and stretching along the shore of Lake Ontario in dunes that rise up to 25 meters. Sandbanks contains the largest freshwater baymouth barrier dunes on Earth. The water behind them is shallow and warm. On a summer afternoon with the light off the lake and the pale sand in every direction, the scene reads as coastal Mediterranean. The comparison to Ukraine is the Azov coast, the long sandy shoreline along the Sea of Azov in southeastern Ukraine. Flat beaches with fine white sand and shallow warm water have drawn Ukrainians for generations. The same quality of light, the same low-lying sandy landscape, the same feeling of being at the edge of something vast and flat. Sandbanks is located near Picton in Prince Edward County, about 2 hours east of Toronto. It draws visitors from across Ontario, but remains almost invisible to anyone outside the province. The dunes alone make it one of the most visually unusual landscapes in Canada. Number 2, canola and flax fields, Saskatchewan. Every July, something happens in Saskatchewan that almost no one outside the province witnesses. The canola fields come into bloom, and where they grow next to flax, the landscape splits into a precise stripe of gold below and blue above. Yellow field, blue sky. The exact colors of the Ukrainian flag stretch to the horizon in every direction. Ukraine is one of the world's largest producers of rapeseed, the same plant family as canola. The fields outside Kyiv and Poltava look like this. Saskatchewan grows more canola than anywhere else on Earth. The visual result side by side is indistinguishable. But there is one detail that makes this specific to Canada. Around the communities of Wakau, Smuts, and Alvena, northeast of Saskatoon, Ukrainian Orthodox churches with onion-domed roofs rise out of the canola fields. The descendants of Ukrainian settlers who arrived here in the 1890s built them. You can stand in front of a golden field under a blue prairie sky with an onion-domed church behind you, and the image requires no explanation at all. Peak bloom runs from mid to late July, no entrance fee, no hike required, just drive. Number 1, Grasslands National Park, Saskatchewan. This is the place most Canadians have never heard of and almost none have visited. Grasslands National Park sits in the extreme southwest corner of Saskatchewan, near the Montana border, protecting one of the last remaining undisturbed stretches of mixed grass prairie on the continent. There are no trees, there are no mountains. There is grass, wind, sky, and distance. The land rolls in long, slow waves toward the horizon and then keeps going. Coulees, shallow ravines carved by ancient water, cut across the plateau in dark lines. Prairie dogs build their towns in the open ground. Bison have been reintroduced and move freely across the landscape. This is the Ukrainian steppe, not a comparison, a near-identical ecosystem. The steppe that covers 2/3 of Ukraine, that defined the country's identity, that appears in every Ukrainian poem and folk song about home, it looks exactly like this. Flat, open, ancient, and almost impossibly quiet. The difference is that the Ukrainian steppe has been almost entirely converted to farmland. What remains is protected in small reserves. In grasslands, it survives intact across 900 square kilometers. The park sits 100 kilometers south of Swift Current. There are no services inside the park. The nearest town is Val-Marie, population under 100. Most Canadians will never go. But if you want to understand what Ukraine looked like before any of it was touched, this is the closest you can get without leaving the country. Drop the one that surprised you most in the comments. Subscribe for more of Canada's hidden beauty.